Oh no, Utah.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest, craziest sport on planet Earth. As I'm recording this show, Florida State just lost to Stanford at an hour that is what some people might be waking up at to go to work in the part of the country where Florida State actually is. And I have so many thoughts. And yeah, wearing a suit jacket and button down today. Why? Because we got business to get to on the show, which is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Hugh Freeze is going to be fired at some point from Auburn. He should. The Alabama loss to Florida State continues to bamboozle everybody. Georgia survived. So many thoughts from an unbelievable day. Hyped it up all week on the show. It lived up, maybe even went above and beyond. Maybe it did. Maybe it did, because this sport is that great. Utah is in a nightmare situation. Nightmare. Kyle Whittingham, you got to feel for the guy at some level. I truly believe, I've said this all offseason, I believe he came back to win this football game against BYU, and he couldn't do it. Could not get it done. It's the BYU find a way to win Cougars. Hold on a sec. Those watching on YouTube, you see this hat? You see this hat from the game cap? Yeah, okay. It's a Utah hat. When I have put this hat on this show, Utah is 1-2. You know what every Utah fan wants to do with their gear that has Utah athletics on it right now? They want to throw it against the wall. They want to slam their hand into a bed. They want to scream into a pillow. How could you not? How could you feel anything as a Utah fan other than complete and utter frustration and despair that Kyle Whittingham might be ending his career going 0 for his last 3 against BYU? Ouch. Ouch. That doesn't feel very good. Utah fans, I think understandably so, came into the Big 12 very confident. It hasn't gone very well. It has not been a great time for the Utes. So Utah loses this game, and the Utah players, fans, coaches, media, everybody can just think back to a couple of moments for a second straight year where you go, oh my gosh, how can we... right there, Utah has 2 drives that go inside the 15-yard line, and you come away with 0 points in a game you lose by 3. I am a huge proponent of Kyle Whittingham being a great coach in college football. I'm even most often a proponent of going for it on 4th down. The 4th and 1 early in the game, I got that one. Didn't love it, but I got that one. I'm not going to talk about the play calls because I didn't game plan all week for BYU's defense, so I don't have an understanding of what Jason Beck saw and why he made those particular play calls and why even they didn't, well, I know why they didn't work, but he had those calls in that spot for a specific reason because of something he saw. He did the game plan. I'll leave that to him. In those 2 moments, though, 4th and 1, you go for it. 4th and 3, when you've already been stopped on 4th and 1, when you are on the road, I don't care if you're in a rivalry game or not, I am a huge proponent of taking points when you had a drive. Because nothing demoralizes your team more. A 12-play, 5.5-minute, 81-yard drive that resulted in 0 points. And it wasn't even goal to go either time. If you pick up the first 4th down, okay, your offensive line is showing you that they're good enough in that spot when BYU knows you're going to run the football. The Cougars make a stop on 4th and 1 with their own Mo Bamba. Forget Penn State's. BYU's legendary, it's their Mo Bamba, comes downhill and makes a play. And that's what BYU did in this game more than Utah. But after you get stopped the first time on 4th and 1, which I'm okay with you going for, don't love it, but I'm okay with it. Going for it on the 4th and 3, that's a decision that should be rightfully scrutinized. Rightfully scrutinized. You picked up 2 yards with a quarterback run. I was so sure it was going to be quarterback run when Devin Dampier stood behind center there on 4th and 1. It was a read play. He makes the right read. I thought they'd go straight quarterback run. They didn't. Then they did on 4th and 3. They got 2 yards instead of 3. Those 2 moments, you lose the football game. That's it. That's it. There were some bad calls in this game going both directions. Welcome to college football. It's not a very well officiated sport. Understand it and deal with it as best you can. It's frustrating. I know. I watch it every single week. However, Utah has nobody to blame but themselves. Nobody to blame but themselves. They could have been in overtime, or if they'd executed, maybe they would have won it in regulation. But what do you have since joining the Big 12 to feel good about, to lean back on if you're the Utes? Nothing. Nothing. It is a tough time to be a Utah fan. Absolutely brutal. So, the lowest of vibes. Worst vibes. If there's a marker that I could put on my scale for my fan mood assessment after a game lower than the worst vibes, Utah would have it right now. Bad times. You've been blown out at home and lost to your rival close again. Again. By the way, the uniform matchup in this game is spectacular. The color rush is unbelievable. We need more of that in college football. Not only flip over and talk about BYU. The BYU find a way to win Cougars. Oh, there's another play I want to talk about that's going to haunt Utah fans, and BYU fans are going to think about it forever and ever and ever. A true freshman quarterback just found the stones and found a way to knife and needle through your defense on 3rd and 10, down 3. The Utes couldn't stop a quarterback draw. Bear Bachmeyer is not lighting the world on fire with his passing numbers. I don't know that he could in his career. He's not doing that this year. You know what he is doing? He's just making winning football plays. It's his first year of college football. The team he transferred from, by the way, beat Florida State. Did you know that? No, you probably weren't watching. I was up past midnight, my local time, and watched Florida State lose to Stanford. I saw that happen. Bear Bachmeyer, of course, comes over to BYU and becomes an instant legend. The quarterback draw is the stuff of legends. That's a legendary moment. Bamba's tackle for loss, Bachmeyer's 3rd and 10. Those are the moments BYU fans are just going to replay in their heads over and over and over. And why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you? You've earned it. Utah fans, pretty high and mighty. They got nothing on you right now. Absolutely nothing. BYU has no losses in the Big 12. Their schedule gets tougher going forward. Sure. It absolutely does. But they're 7-0. They've beaten Utah twice since the Utes got into the league. Iowa State, Texas Tech, TCU, Cincinnati, UCF. That's who BYU plays the rest of the way. Control their own destiny and make the Big 12 championship and the college football playoff. Is there a better feeling than being a BYU fan right now? There is not. And I'd apologize to BYU fans for picking Utah in this game, but BYU fans, we know how this works, right? Like, we've officially hit that point in the year. You're welcome. You're welcome. We have that understanding, right? I hope we do. I hope we do. I love both of these fan bases dearly as someone who resides in the Beehive State. But BYU's ability to just find a way. There are programs all across the country, not just in major conferences and smaller conferences too, that find ways to lose these games. And at some point, you have to just give major credit to Kalani Sitake. Players have come and gone, a quarterback change late in the cycle, and it just keeps resulting in close wins. BYU's battle-tested. BYU's defense stiffened up. BYU was outgained on the ground by Utah in this game. If you had told me that, I thought for sure you run for more yards in this game, you're going to win, and that just wasn't the case. It flat out wasn't. They were only outgained by 24 yards, but still, for the Cougars to have just found a way with 368 yards of total offense to win, it was just another classic Holy War matchup. And BYU fans are probably on fire. Provo was amazing because it always is. It is such a great football town. It is a beautiful stadium, and boy, that crowd was electric. And they're probably still feeling the high of this win as you're listening to or watching the show, even if you're watching it days after. BYU's going to ride this one for a while. They should. They absolutely should. Those two moments, the 3rd and 10 scramble, the 4th and 1, and the 4th and 3 stop as well. I am a diehard Seattle Mariners fan. Let me tell you, I will never forget where I was, how it felt to watch Gino Suarez hit that grand slam, to watch Cal Raleigh hit that home run, to watch Polanco hit that single. I'll never forget it. BYU fans, you will not forget where you were when you watched those 3 moments, because those are buck up, go win a rivalry football game, and be tougher than the mighty Utes moment. I don't think there's a fan base in college football today that feels better than BYU. And it has nothing to do with the college football playoff. That's the best part of it. It's just about beating that team a little bit further north. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all that good stuff. The SEC had a wild weekend. Boy, it was awesome. It was awesome. I predicted most of it right. Not all of it, but most of it right. And let me tell you, Hugh Freeze is going to get fired at Auburn. First, this episode brought to you by DoorDash. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down and start with Bachmeyer. I mean, what more could you ask from a true freshman? Is he the greatest passer? No. Does he do enough? Yeah. Is he just a gamer? That's the best thing you can say about Bachmeyer. Dude's a gamer. That's just the way he goes out and plays. That's the way he's wired. That's obviously the way Kalani Sitake wires all of his quarterbacks in the last couple of years. Because from Retzlaff to Bachmeyer, it has been the same. And Kalani Sitake and Bachmeyer. And speaking of quarterbacks, Diego Pavia. I'm going to get to him in the second segment. They beat LSU. Vanderbilt's a better football team than LSU. You just have to deal with that reality. That's a sobering reality to those in Baton Rouge. Those players delivered for their teams, just like DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. This episode also brought to you by our friends at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Do you need a game changer? Guess what? Supply House has next day delivery. You talk about a game changer, that is exactly what it is. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. So much mad craziness in the SEC. I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know. Oh, wait, yes, I do. Hugh Freeze is going to be fired from Auburn. He was asked a question about the future of the program and whether he and his staff are the Go listen to his answer, about 90 seconds long, and see it floating around on Twitter, I'm sure. And you can see the look in his face, you can hear the tone in his voice, and you can know what I know to be true as well. Hugh Freeze has to go. This is not acceptable in year 3. This is another close, competitive, hard-fought loss. Yeah, this is Auburn. This is a program that has been to multiple national championship games within the last decade and a half of college football. This is a program that, when it is right, makes the SEC championship game, certainly should be able to get into the college football playoff. Why is Vanderbilt ahead of Auburn right now? I believe they square off later this year. Vanderbilt is ahead of Auburn. There's no excuse for that. Absolutely, positively none. Vanderbilt's ahead of LSU. Clark Lee is a really good football coach. Really, really good football coach. He was on the hot seat going into last year, and he has done what he has done has been nothing short of remarkable. I love watching Clark Lee win football games. Vanderbilt's doing things they've never done before, but Auburn has now started SEC play 0-4. That win against Baylor earlier in the year, not holding up well over time because the Bears are not even that good of a team in the Big 12. They lost again today to TCU. So Hugh Freeze is playing the same game over and over. I have brought this up before, but it is applicable once again. Auburn fans are stuck in Doctor Strange's time loop that he uses to wear down Dormammu. He dies, and then it resets. Dormammu, I have come to bargain. It is the same game. Auburn fans are reliving the same moment over and over again. Oh, look, it's almost a win. It's competitive. The talent on the field isn't missing. It's just not quite there, and we lose a one possession or a close game. Yeah. Yeah, 23-17 in double overtime. Props to Missouri. Good vibes for the Tigers. They stayed in control of their own destiny and make the college football playoff. Missouri's a good team. I've been bullish on them all year. I have been a Missouri doubter for the last couple of seasons, but this is a good vibes outcome that you go on the win and find a way to get a victory at Jordan-Hare. And it doesn't mean it was easy just because a lot of people are doing it. You know, I mean, a lot of people are getting into golf nowadays. Doesn't mean that it's easy. It isn't. But Missouri's proven to be a pretty good player. And they win 23-17. Auburn just, yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't think there's anything Hugh Freeze can do to save his job. Auburn might not make a bowl game this year. I picked him to at least make a bowl game. You know, they'll beat Mercer. They have Arkansas and Kentucky. They could lose one of those games. Kentucky almost beat Texas. The SEC very quietly is starting to look more and more like the Big 12. I think the SEC is a better conference. Don't get me wrong. The gap is not as big as the SEC homers would like you to believe. Because what happens in other conferences when, you know, a team that's perceived to be good struggles with a team at the bottom? Oh, look how weak this conference actually is. What happens when it takes place in the SEC? They try to just brush it under the rug. Texas should have lost to Kentucky. They very easily could have lost. They found a way to win with a goal line stand. Give them credit for that. Kentucky, I won't say should. Kentucky could have won the football game. Texas did not outplay them. I don't know why I didn't make that one of my best bets, because there's a classic emotional letdown spot. Anyway, bringing this back to Auburn. At Arkansas, who's been playing good football since Bobby Petrino got there. Yeah, Auburn could lose that game. Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Like, there's nothing that could happen. Even beating Alabama at the end of the year, you can't Billy Napier the situation and retcon it back to, oh, no, it's okay, he's got it figured out, he's going to carry it over to next year. Nope. How you start the season matters. And in year 3, you cannot start 0-4 in conference play. So a change is going to be made. At least it should. It very, very much should happen there in Auburn. Speaking of the SEC, Vanderbilt beat LSU. Vanderbilt's a better football team. Does that make sense to all of you? Like, do you all comprehend that that's not hyperbole? That's not, oh, it's a fun story. No, Vanderbilt is not just Diego Pavia. Vanderbilt is a better football team. Diego Pavia is very good, don't get me wrong. And Garrett Nussmeier looked better in this game. That's the encouraging thing for LSU. Remember when Brian Kelly snapped at that reporter, who admittedly asked a question at the wrong time when they did win the football game, but was wondering about, hey, are you going to be able to run the ball? What's going on with the offense? And Brian Kelly got defensive about it. Yeah, that read to me as a sign that Brian Kelly was insecure because he knew deep down it is a problem, and he just doesn't want to answer questions about it after they found a way to beat, Florida, who should have lost. Texas could have lost. Florida should have lost to Mississippi State. My Bulldogs. I mean, they covered in all for the best bets, which had a winning week finally, but they should have won. They should have won, and Blake Shapen threw a bad interception. Tough for Jeff Lebby, and they continue looking for an SEC conference win. But LSU runs for 100 yards in this game. That includes Garrett Nussmeier's sack yardage. Okay, big deal. So 113 yards against Vanderbilt in a crowd that looked like it looked like Red River. It was split between the two fan bases there. I mean, it's just a crazy thing to say. Vanderbilt is doing things they've never done this century, and it's wild, and it's awesome. It's awesome. This is a highest of vibes sort of game for Vanderbilt. This is a lowest of vibes sort of game for LSU. Because the Tigers I don't think LSU, in my rankings, they're not going to get punished severely because a lot of people the AP had them in the top 10. Let me throw up my top 25 coming into this week, which will certainly get some shakeups. Virginia will be out. Utah will be out. Nebraska will be out. But notice how I have Vanderbilt coming into this week at 12 and LSU at 17. This outcome didn't actually surprise me. It did not surprise me that Vanderbilt won the game, because I actually picked Vanderbilt to win the game. It is not just about Diego Pavia, as awesome as he is. Guy's one of the best stories in college football over the last couple of years. He was the leading rusher and, of course, the leading passer for Vanderbilt in this game. But the Commodores held LSU, and all the money that went into that roster and all the talent that they have and that coaching set, they held them to 24 points and 113 actual rushing yards. That's just called having a good football team. So Vanderbilt has a good football team. We absolutely should talk about Vanderbilt's college football playoff team. There's no other way to see it. Look at how that loss against Alabama looks at the moment. Pretty good. Pretty good, because Vanderbilt was outplayed. Vanderbilt was the second best team on the field, but losing 30-14, game was a whole heck of a lot closer than that, and then you rebound with a win against Missouri, or a win against LSU. Missouri's up next. What a football game. What a football game between a couple of one-loss teams who are good. Those teams, one of them could go 11-1 or 10-2 and wind up in the playoff, and you look up and go, wow, Missouri, hey. Oh, wow, Vanderbilt could go to the playoff. That's not a crazy proposition whatsoever. It really isn't. Is their schedule easy? No. They still have Missouri. Texas is not that good. Auburn, Kentucky, and at Tennessee. Do I think they're going to the playoff? No. Could they get there? Yeah, because with their schedule, 10-2 gets you in, so they could lose one more time. Vanderbilt's just a good football team. Just wrap your mind around that. They're going to be fighting, and I think with their AP ranking reflected this. Again, not my top 25, but in the AP. They're fighting what Indiana fought last year. They are fighting the anti-helmet brand bias. It's a very real thing. Texas was ranked this week. Why? Don't know. They were not in my top 25. I wasn't surprised they struggled with Kentucky, whose uniforms were awesome, by the way. The helmets were incredible. Shout out to the Wildcats equipment staff. But Vanderbilt is going to be fighting against that as much as anybody that is going to push for a college football playoff spot this year. They're going to fight anti-brand bias of, it's Vanderbilt. They're going to do. No, this is not a fun story. This is not a fluke. This is just a good football team. Get your head around that. Speaking of good football teams, there's something completely inexplicable. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you just don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You'll never believe what happened. I had a 4-1 week with my best bets at long last. Are we about to get hot? Shoot to get hot, shoot to stay hot. You know I'm going to try again next week. Why the heck wouldn't I? 4-1. I just needed Cal to beat North Carolina soundly. They won the game. They didn't cover it. That's all we missed on. Got on UCLA -2.5 before it jumped to 3.5. They won by a field goal. Vegas, very undefeated, very good at this sort of stuff. FanDuel, very good at this sort of stuff. Minnesota +7.5. That was an easy one. Mississippi State should have won the game. Should have. Blake Shapen. Oh no, Blake Shapen, what were you doing? Didn't see the nose tackle there in field goal range to win the game. The Bulldogs could have gotten Billy Napier fired on the spot, and he got booed anyway, going off the field. So 4-1 with the picks this week. Things went according to plan. If you think you can do better, or if you want to start hopping on the wagon that could be my best bets, probably not, go check out FanDuel. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Check them out at FanDuel.com. All right, sticking in the SEC here, I cannot, because it was a great weekend of football in the Southeastern Conference. Alabama plays a great game against Tennessee. Better in the Vols. I thought they would win. And lo and behold, Alabama wins kind of comfortably against a Tennessee team who I believe is good, who I know is good. And you know what? I have to eat a little bit of crow, even though I picked Alabama to win the game. The Crimson Tide had their quarterback, Ty Simpson, throw for just 253 yards. Joey Aguilar had 268. And yet, Alabama wins 37-20. 37-20. Alabama still hasn't lost an SEC game. They still have not lost an SEC game. And if you want an indicator for how much further down the SEC has come compared to what it was at its peak, which it is not at or anywhere close to, quite frankly, you could say close, but they are not there. Alabama lost to Florida State. This game, not just at this point in the season, but as the season continues, because Kalen DeBoer looks like he's figured things out. And that doesn't surprise me one bit. And I was stunned. I picked Alabama to beat Florida State in that season opener comfortably. And I was stunned that they lost that football game. I could not believe it because in my preseason ACC power rankings, for those watching on YouTube, you can see, I had Florida State at 14th behind Virginia, team they lost to, by the way. Florida State lost to Stanford tonight. Now, as someone who has watched games take place on the farm in Palo Alto many a times, I'm not shocked in the slightest. Cross-country trip, late-night game. When did this game start for Seminole fans? Conference realignment is so foolish. And Cal playing North Carolina, Stanford playing Florida State, and those games kicking off at 8 p.m. That's 11 Eastern. It's just completely and utterly ridiculous. Anyway, bringing this back to the football conversation. A lot of people bought into Florida State. I said, let's wait. Let's wait and see. They might have peaked right there. Yeah, they peaked. They haven't won an ACC game. Have not won. The team that looks like the best team in the SEC has a loss this year to a winless ACC program that's coming off a 2-10 season. That is one of the best representations in a one-game sample of how the scales have balanced in college football. And they have. And that makes it even more exciting and fun. Because Miami can lose to Louisville while still being a really good football team. Ohio State looks like the best team in the country. Yeah, I wouldn't put anybody over Ohio State right now. They're number one in my top 25. They're not moving after this week. Goodness gracious, Wisconsin is bad. But, by the way, James Franklin to Wisconsin, that would make a whole heck of a lot of sense. Anyway, so I think that for Alabama going forward, their schedule looks like it's got a lot of wins on it. I picked them to go 11-1 before the year. I'm not coming off of that prediction. Kalen DeBoer seems to have figured things out. Ty Simpson is playing good football. He and Ryan Grubb have got things going along. Whatever adjustments, adaptations, changes, however you want to phrase it, all of that going into the SEC from what they had at Washington previously, this is what it looked like. This is what it felt like. Alabama's just good. Good vibes for Alabama winning a rivalry game there comfortably. Tennessee, on the other hand, is a good team. I don't think Tennessee is bad. They've been better than I expected this year. They are not going to wind up in the college football playoff or the SEC championship game. Had your opportunity against Georgia to do that. But going forward, you got 2 losses. Is that getting you in? Probably not. Probably not, because Georgia just keeps finding ways to win. I tell you, here's another example of what I'm talking about with the SEC. If the game that played out in Athens, Georgia, were being played in Lubbock, Texas, or Waco, or somewhere like that, the SEC homer crowd would be leaning into, see, the Big 12 doesn't play any defense. Well, or alternatively, they just have a lot of really good offensive players, which is, of course, what the narrative should be for the SEC. But can we also point out 43-35 the final, Georgia over Ole Miss. Florida, fire Billy Napier and go hire Lane Kiffin if you can. If you can. He might want to stick it out there. That's the first loss of the season for the Rebels. Not a game that surprised me in the slightest. Both quarterbacks played really well. Trinidad Chambliss is awesome. Both offensive coordinators had great days. I have liked Gunnar Stockton since I first saw him in the college football playoff last year. I remember my exact take when they lost to Notre Dame. Gunnar Stockton's not the problem. The problem was that Georgia got pushed around, and you can still push Georgia around. That Ole Miss offensive line did anything and everything they wanted to lead a guy that was playing Division II football to 35 points in Athens, which was roaring to life. The crowd was on fire. It was awesome. It was a great football game. But make no mistake about it, Georgia is relying on their offense to bail out their defense. In their two biggest wins of the year, that's what is needed to happen. And the one time their defense did play well, yep, they happened to lose to Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. He's really good in close games situationally. Newsflash. That's something that the SEC is starting to really learn. But for Alabama to have beaten Georgia and then Georgia just comes right back, I admire Kirby Smart for a number of reasons. But the biggest reason right now is that the resilience and no quit and find a way attitude. Georgia is the BYU of the SEC. That's what they are. Because all they do is just go find ways to win. And yep, they lost one this year. Life can be hard sometimes. But what you can never doubt with Kirby Smart and Georgia, those kids are not quitting. If they could ever figure out the defense, Georgia would be really good because I like the Georgia offense a lot. I know Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator, has faced some questions before, but you can't ask any right now. Not with the performance against Tennessee and this performance against Ole Miss. They trailed by 2 possessions in the second half, came back, finally got a stop, and Gunnar Stockton was nails. Gunnar Stockton was absolutely, positively awesome on Saturday afternoon. And he is just looking better, and the offense is just looking better and better. You realize how many yards there were in this game, though? It's not an old school SEC game. Georgia had 510 yards of offense. Ole Miss had 351. Chambliss threw for 263. Stockton threw for 289 and 4 touchdowns. Neither one of them threw an interception. The high-level quarterback play, it's fun to watch. It really is. I think we thought it would come from different sources this year in college football. But we're getting the quarterback play we expected. It's not Garrett Nussmeier, and it's not Cade Klubnik, and it's not Drew Aller, and it's not a bunch of guys, but it sure is guys that have emerged, like Gunnar Stockton, who is arriving as a bona fide star in college football, and a guy that has shown you, yeah, he can lead Georgia to go win any kind of football game. The question is, can they figure out their defense going forward? Crazy thing to say, when they won 2 national championships largely on the back of their defense, they have flipped. It is an invert. They have gone into the world of Tenet by Christopher Nolan, and they are inverted. They are inverted Georgia. Their remaining schedule, by the way: Florida at Mississippi State, Texas, Charlotte, Georgia Tech. Do you see them losing more than one of those games? Because, yeah, I just don't, because that offense is lethal. So, close it there for the day. More thoughts coming this week on the show, of course, from what was a great weekend of college football. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.